The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Yes, good day, tokers and tokettes. Welcome. It is Wednesday, September 25th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us on 420radio.org, the home of marijuana legalization talk radio. And speaking of 420radio.org, got a lot of announcements for the future coming up next week. We debut our fall lineup, which is going to include the return of a bunch of shows, including Toker Talk Radio, A Different View, new episodes of Canna Truth, the Libra Lounge, new shows like Cannabis Network Radio, and a whole bunch more. So make sure you stay tuned next week. Also, the Viper Hour will be back, and we're going to be showing the movie The Devil's Harvest from 1942. So you want to check in for a little MST3K style viewing of old propaganda movies. We have a little fun like that on the Viper Hour from time to time. Also, some upcoming show notes. Friday's show, we'll have Danny Danko from High Times Magazine giving us a preview of the High Times Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam. Tomorrow, we're going to come to you live from the brand new Brightside PDX dispensary in Portland, Oregon. The operator manager, Calico Castile, our former intern, has invited us down there. So we'll see you there live from Portland's newest dispensary on tomorrow's show. And next week on Friday, very, very important show next Friday, we've got my first interview with someone in prison, a gentleman going by the name of Kerry Lee. Interesting story, recorded an album full of tunes before he was sentenced. And while he's been in prison for 12 years, his album has crawled up the iTunes independent music charts. He's got a very popular album out there. We're going to play some of the music. We're going to talk to him live, as well as his partner who's helping him promote the album while he's still incarcerated. All right, on today's show, we've got some more video for you from Portland Hempstock featuring the women of Hempstock, Anna Diaz, Madeline Martinez, and Bonnie King, all speaking to you from the Hempstock stage. We'll get to that at 1:30. In the Radical Rant today, we're going to talk about marijuana and child endangerment. Why is it this country thinks that a marijuana plant is more dangerous to a kid than a loaded firearm? Also, in Behind the Headlines, a trend that's taking place in the media I want to uncover called the crack of marijuana. Some new framing on butane hash oil. We got Gordon Green calling in for our Irie Wednesday today with some music from John Mason. But first, we're going to get to the 420 radio news with news from Jamaica and Michigan and points all over the globe having to do with marijuana. Be right back. Stick around. It's the Russ Belville Show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, Ellen, want a hit? Want to smoke a joint before trying this on?
There you go, Ellen. You want to get high? We got some great high stick in the back.
Smoke. Kind buzz. Sexy. Here you go.
love this stuff. It'll get you really high.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, September 25th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Jamaica lawmakers debate pot decriminalization from ABC News. Lawmakers on Tuesday debated a proposal to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of marijuana for personal use by adults in Jamaica, where many islanders are expressing weariness with current drug policy, with some arguing that pot could become a major force for the struggling legitimate economy if it was no longer relegated to the underground. Some lawmakers complained that the current law results in about 300 young men receiving criminal records each week for possessing small amounts of ganja, creating a growing pool of unemployable people on the Caribbean island. In 2001, a government-appointed commission recommended legalizing the private use and possession of small amounts by adults. The decriminalization effort stalled largely due to anxiety over angering the United States. But now that a growing number of U.S. states are loosening their pot laws and voters in Washington and Colorado legalized it, some advocates say the old fear is now baseless. Rastafarian teen cleared to carry pot pipe in Minnesota from hightimes.com. The Minnesota Supreme Court has ruled that a 15-year-old Rastafarian boy has the religious freedom right under Minnesota law to carry a pot pipe at all times as part of his religious practice and a reminder of his faith. The teen testified that he carries his pipe with him as a reminder of his faith and so that he can, quote, perform what needs to be performed, which is smoking, end quote. He stated that the colors that appear on his pipe, red, yellow, and green, have religious significance, quote, red for the blood of the martyrs, yellow for the sun that grows the greens, the sacred herb, the purity of nature, end quote. And he testified that even when he is not actively practicing his religion, quote, I do remind myself of it at all the time, quote. Michael Kemp, the boy's attorney, said he won a reversal because he successfully argued the state's enforcement of the drug paraphernalia in this case, quote, was a burden on the teen's religion, end quote. Kemp continued, quote, the fatal flaw in the state's argument was to rely on arguing the state's interest in enforcement of controlled substances laws and ending their argument there, end quote. Pot smokers welcome to light up at the Grand Rapids Howard Johnson from cranesdetroit.com. The Howard Johnson franchise on 28th Street in Grand Rapids has seen occupancy soar since owner Bob Sullivan made a seemingly unfashionable business decision: accommodate smokers. And not just the tobacco variety, Sullivan caters to marijuana smokers as well. 20 rooms already have been renovated to accommodate smokers, and by the time Sullivan's done, 60 to 80 of the hotel's 155 rooms will allow smoking, accommodating medical marijuana patients as well as tobacco smokers. Sullivan, who himself does not smoke cigarettes or marijuana even for medicinal use, estimates occupancy is up 50% since he started renovating the rooms. Renovations have included opening each room up with sliding doors and installing a patio with a tall fence around it to provide privacy. Under the state's smoke-free air law, which went into effect in May of 2010, tobacco smoking is prohibited inside places where people work, including hotels, bars, and restaurants. But the law doesn't apply to smoking outside, hence the outdoor patios, and the law also doesn't mention cannabis smoke. Colorado introduces new standards for marijuana-infused foods from foodsafetynews.com. The Marijuana Enforcement Division of Colorado's Department of Revenue published the permanent rules related to the Colorado Retail Marijuana Code on September 9th. Amendment 64 also directed the Department of Revenue to govern retail sales by creating licensure regulations, labeling requirements, health and safety regulations, advertising restrictions, and civil penalties. The new rules governing retail sales of marijuana-infused foods essentially fall into three categories: required labeling, optional labeling, and required labeling when a certified lab performs tests. Things required on the label include the license numbers of the facilities where the marijuana ingredients were grown and manufactured, a complete list of non-organic pesticides and herbicides used during cultivation, and a list of warning statements including, quote, this product was produced without regulatory oversight for health, safety, or efficacy, end quote. Fewer Northampton teens view marijuana as harmful, survey says, from masslive.com. Fewer Northampton high schoolers view marijuana as harmful than in past years, according to a recent survey done by Northampton Prevention Coalition. In 2007, approximately 62% of Northampton high school seniors indicated they viewed marijuana as harmful, whereas only 42% reported the same in 2013. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, September 25th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines to look at a growing trend in the framing of butane hash oil among the media as the crack of marijuana. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
On an all-new intervention.
Mark, welcome home. Please, come, join us.
Mark hasn't smoked weed in about 10 days, and I'm worried about him. I can't watch him destroy himself.
I'm fine, okay? This is none of your business.
Come, Mark. We're only here because we care.
I'm in control. That's what they don't get, is that I can start smoking weed anytime that I want to. I just don't feel like it right now.
At first he was, just skipping a day here and there. But then it got more and more consistent, and then he just wasn't smoking any weed at all.
Mark, we haven't smoked a joint together in like 3 weeks, man. I don't know who you are anymore. Your short-term memory is incredible. I just can't sit back and watch someone destroy their own lives with horrible decisions.
See you guys. Stupid, I'm getting out of here.
Hey,
don't touch me!
It hurts me a lot, What do you do for someone that you care about that is ruining their own life? What do you do?
He's not showing any signs of starting.
Intervention on A&E.
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
I think you'd probably be a lot cooler if you had, Mr. President.
Said, hey, do you have a joint, kids? Sure would be a lot cooler if you did. Light it, don't hide it. Light it, don't hide it. Oh, light it, don't hide it. Light it, don't hide it. Just light it, don't hide it. Fire.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And today, my curiosity was piqued by a quote I saw that called dabs the crack of marijuana. And look, no article I've written has generated as much controversy as one I originally entitled The Danger of Dabs. It came out late 2011 in Kush magazine. High Times reprinted it in May of 2012, called it The Dawn of the Dab. And my thesis was, the danger of dabs isn't so much physical as it is a public relations nightmare. And a theme that's developed from just a couple of news reports last week reveals how the media are framing butane hash oil as the latest dangerous drug endangering our teenagers. It started with ABC 15 in Phoenix. They ran a story last Monday that was entitled, Dabbing, the New Drug of Choice for Teens? Following a brief explanation of what butane hash oil is, without ever mentioning it is essentially marijuana, the bulk of the story features Shane Watson, a rehab counselor and a recovering addict, explaining how awful his life became because of BHO. The story even warns parents what to look for if their child is making dab without mentioning that the marijuana is needed to make it. The entire construction of the article is to separate hash oil from marijuana conceptually, to paint dab as some different drug entirely. By Tuesday, ABC2 in Baltimore, ABC7 in Denver, and ABC5 in Cleveland have re-aired the story. On Wednesday, ABC 23 in Bakersfield and ABC 10 in San Diego repeated the story. The dab aired all over the country as any ABC affiliate needing a sensational filler story out of Arizona went and replayed the footage. Now, by Thursday, the ABC 15 story made the leap into internet media as a screen grab for a story that was entitled Dabbing, Dangerous New Drug Seized in Maryland, and this appeared in the Towson Patch. The story features the subtitle, "This is the crack of marijuana," one official quoted a user as saying of the concentrated butane hash oil. The crack of marijuana. Now, this official was supposedly Sergeant Mike Connor of the Maryland State Police, and he allegedly goes on to say, quote, "It's so potent, it is dangerous. People claim you can't overdose on marijuana. In fact, you can. It's so strong, they are passing out," end quote. Well, this crack of marijuana quote then gained some traction when it was reprinted in the Baltimore News Journal on Saturday, and then just today in a story called "The Best Worst Marijuana in the World is Spreading Like Weeds," which appeared in the Fredericksburg Patch, says the crack of marijuana. They had that quote in there from Sergeant Connor, and that was followed by the lead paragraph that read, quote, "A powerful concentrated form of marijuana is quickly gaining popularity among the East Coast, but unlike typical marijuana, it may carry the risk of overdose." So, for reference, the story then cites California Normal's Dale Gearinger, who was writing in O'Shaughnessy's, which is the Journal for Medical Cannabis, that, quote, "Increased use of BHO has led to an increase in hospitalizations for cannabis overdose," end quote. This guy from California Normal, folks. And I can attest to the fact that I've never seen people pass out and get wheeled away on stretchers for smoking flowers, like I have seen at events when they're smoking dabs. And then, of course, there's my own personal experience with a too big glob that left me puking my guts out all over a Los Angeles sidewalk. But the term overdose is very misunderstood by the public. When people think overdose, they think OD and they think death. However, many people have experienced overdoses, from the gal who can't sleep from too much coffee to the guy with a throbbing headache from a hangover. Look, passing out is a serious concern, but that can happen from liquor. And nobody is calling Jack Daniels the crack of beer. For that matter, calling anything the crack of is metaphorically inaccurate, since crack and cocaine are the same drug and have the same addictive potential and the same overdose potential. That whole Reagan-era one hit and you'll be addicted line turned out to be as much of a myth as the so-called crack babies. Look, as this dab phenomenon sweeps eastward, more local news affiliates are also reporting the stories of exploding motel rooms and apartments from the latest ignorant butane hash oil maker. Just yesterday, 2 stories made the evening news in Fresno and San Diego. Please don't make the news this way. There is nothing quite like a moral panic to set back years of progressive momentum. Ask anyone affiliated with marijuana decriminalization in the 1970s. Even the most live and let live minded neighbor who won't mind a pot smoker or a closet grow isn't going to abide potential explosions. Even the woodstockiest parents and grandparents aren't going to identify with blowtorches and passed out teens. We must redouble our efforts to educate the public that just as profit-seeking bootleggers blew up the occasional still to make concentrated alcohol under Prohibition, so too will profit-seeking hash makers operate unsafely until the activity is regulated and the Prohibition profit margins are reduced. We must ensure that people understand BHO is just concentrated marijuana. Don't let the media promulgate this misunderstanding that dabs is somehow a new, different, dangerous drug, and call them out anytime they try to compare it to crack. Well, all this talk about BHO and dabs makes me want to have one. Don't got any here today, unfortunately. We're just going to have to stick with good old-fashioned joints. So light them if you got them. We'll be back.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earlywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations, expose pretensions, build personal relationships, and much more. He irreverently debunks the pseudoscience on the topic of humor and leaves readers not only funnier, but better informed. It's part of the Psych 101 series from Springer Publishing, Humor 101 by Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D.
It's quite simple. I'm a very nasty drunk. I get mean. I get loud. I'll tell your deepest, darkest secrets to a stranger, and I'll puke on your shoes. So, if that's the kind of behavior that this culture promotes, fuck it.
Your one-room schoolhouse of choice. Your one-stop freedom shop. It's the Libra Lounge.
Sundays at 3 right here on 420radio.org.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Wednesday, time to get Irie, and we've got our music editor, Gordon Green, on the line. How you doing, Gordon?
I'm doing great, Russ. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I am looking forward to today's song, and really excited to have you here as our music editor because, we love that Irie music for Wednesdays. And I'm just wondering, Gordon, what got you into Irie music in the first place? What's your love of reggae, and how did that evolve?
Started a long time ago. I was in high school. I had a very left-wing friend. My family was conservative, religious type, and my left-wing friend introduced me to Bob Marley and political activism, and kind of snowballed from there.
Excellent. A lot of people's first introduction to the reggae genre is Bob Marley. I know it is for me, and what I've always found interesting is how much breadth and depth there is in the reggae genre. I know when Brian the Red was doing this, I was introduced to all sorts of different types of reggae music, and that's one of the things I like to emphasize here on this segment. So thank you for doing that. What can you tell us about our next artist? We got John Mason coming up, and I know we got a great song from him, so what can you tell us?
Yeah, man. John Mason is, he was known as actually Perry Mason when he was young in Manchester Parish, Jamaica, because apparently people would go to him to solve local disputes, problems amongst each other, and changed his name to John Mason. He's been doing reggae for almost 20 years, and he's actually part of the Bobo Ashanti sect of Rastafarianism. Just like in any other religion, Rastafarianism has different sects and different beliefs. Bobo Ashanti Rastas are the Rastas that are often seen wearing turbans or robes. They smoke a lot of ganja, And this song is from his 2007 album called Life is Just a Journey. And it's got a great message, great beat, and it's called Can't Stop Me.
All right, here it is. John Mason, They Can't Stop Me. Thanks, Gordon. We'll talk to you next week.
Right on. Peace out, brother.
They can't stop me. They are not so bad. Vitally, I'm a vitalizer with me brain to retain. Always remember all positive message. I'm a positive sender. The broken hearted, well, God mender. If you know me well, I'm no pretender. All bad ways, them a try to end. Hey, me have to leave on the Black Star Line. Got to give them the reminder. Hey. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. Unstoppable. I see them, so them call me Starlocks. None of them can call me Buffalo Soldier like Bob Marley. Tired to see me face, that's a me duty. Keep it divine and speak the truth. Man a lion, some a goat that mean them fruity. Cheer and clear, calm and no groupie. Tell them from me a youthie. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. Vitally, I'm a vitalizer with me brain to be seen. Always remember the positive message as a positive sender. Broken hearted, well, God mender. If you know me well, I'm no pretender. Who them a try, come to hinder. Got to leave out from the Black Star Line. Got to tell you the reminder. Alright. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. Unstoppable. I see them, so them call me Starlocks. None of them can call me. Man, I'm a Buffalo Soldier like Bob Marley. Tired to see me face, that's a me duty. Keep it divine and speak the truth. Man, a lion, some a goat and a flex so fruity. Cheer and clear, calm and no groupie. Tell them come on a youthie. Hey! They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me. God has got me. They can't stop me. They are not so bad. They can't stop me.
My girlfriend thinks that I smoke too much pot, which is crazy because I think, on the other hand, that I don't smoke enough pot, because if I did, I would be finished, and I'm not. Look. We all have our vices in life, you know. I like to smoke a little weed. She likes to feed the baby. Different strokes for different folks, I say, huh? I'm like, look, get off my back. Isn't that your baby crying? Sorry, our baby. Blow a little weed on it, it'll sleep. Don't hiss, I'm just kidding. Like, I really have a girlfriend.
That there was one question that was voted on that ranked fairly high, and that was whether legalizing marijuana would improve the economy and job creation. And I don't know what this says about the online audience, but
DEA is running over a guy in a walker. Live on it.
activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everybody. 31 past the hour. We're going to continue with our look at the Portland hemp stalk that took place September 7th and 8th. We were away at the Seattle Cannabis Cup, and so didn't get a chance to be there personally, but got a lot of friends that filmed a lot of video for us, including these next three ladies who are some of my favorite activists: Bonnie King, Madeline Martinez, and Anna Diaz.
In 2003, I think I met Dr. Phil Levesque. I know a lot of you guys know Dr. Levesque. If you don't, this is Dr. Levesque. It's as close as I could get today because he just couldn't make it. So this is almost life form. He's really a tall guy. Anyhow, if he was here, he'd have all kinds of advice to give to you. All good advice. Doc Levesque was one of the main guys that helped the law, the initiative in 1998 become a reality. He had problems with the Oregon Medical Board because he signed more patients' authorizations than any other doctor in the state of Oregon. So good for him. He helped 5,000 patients before they took him out in 2004. So he had 5 good years that he helped all these people. 1,000 of them are veterans, and we hear from them every day. We hear from them at salemnews.com because he's a regular writer for us. So he's a really special guy. He turned 90 years old just a couple of months ago, and he's still going strong. So you'll see him around. He writes for us 2, 3, 4 times a week. So catch his stuff on salemnews.com. He covers PTSD and a lot of toxicology. He is a forensic toxicologist and a pharmacologist, one of the only ones in the state of Oregon. And so though he can't sign applications anymore, he can still talk about what he knows to be true fact, which is that cannabis cures, and he knows it to be true just as we all do. So I just wanted to share that with you, that Doc does wish that he could be here, and on his behalf I'd like to say what he would of course leave you with: don't smoke in the rain. Anyway, you guys are family, and we always think of the cannabis community as a community. And I want you to look at each other and realize, this isn't a fad. This is, we don't want to look at each other as people that we only run into at places like this because it's a cool place to hang out. We do this all the time. If you're an activist, if you believe in Indian prohibition, then you need to believe it 24/7. So look at each other as your brothers and sisters. We need to take care of each other. Keep each other out of harm's way. Don't let anybody that you know get arrested. Give them good advice. So, turn them on to the best information that you've got. And we've got a lot of resources at salemnews.com, so please feel free to use us in that way as much as you possibly can. But we have a lot of people that have really sacrificed a lot that are serving time in prison today, that have been for many years. But, we've got Reverend Roger Christie in Hawaii, 3 years in federal, detention. This stuff needs to stop. And Doc Levesque also, he is a sacrificial lamb. He sacrificed his whole career for us. So let's do him the favor that he is doing for us, and give it your all. Do what you need to do. Sign your petitions and make sure you vote. And speak up, you guys. You know that it really makes a difference. It makes a difference. Speak the truth. Anyway, thank you very much.
How about all these great volunteers? You see them up there, Loney, Green Leaf, Mountain Wellness. I mean, they're all over the place. Support these people. These are the people that make a difference, just like you. You're here today, and you're making a difference, right? Because we're not criminals. We're not criminals. We're patients. We're people. We're cannabis consumers. And let me remind you, we are government. People call me all the time. They say, Madeline, government screwed up. And I say to them, you're government and I'm government. Put your joint down. Step away from your oil rig for a little while. And call those sons of bitches that represent us in Washington, D.C. and in Salem, and let them know what you want. Because we're government, right? You and me. Do you agree with me? Yeah. We're government, and we're going to change that shit. You know, everybody was really excited about Eric Holder announcing that he's changing the rules, that he's not going to arrest us for low-level, what they call crimes, possession. Well, you know what? That's a bunch of bullshit. You know why he made that announcement? Because society has changed their mind about us. They now know that it's a bunch of BS what they've been feeding us for years. Our brothers and sisters are going to prison. Women are losing their children. And they have a medical marijuana card. And I don't know about you, but you ladies out there, what do you think? If you're a medical marijuana patient, should you have to see your babies under supervision? No! You know, if someone said to me, I'm going to take your baby because you smoke pot, I would not be able to breathe. Right now we have a woman who came to town from Idaho because they took her babies from her. Because the only medicine she can use is marijuana. Is she wrong to use marijuana to stay alive? I hear this line from them, from our opponents. What about the children? What about Lindsay's children? They took them away from her. I get all upset about this. It really bothers the shit out of me. I hope it bugs you too. Doesn't it bother you? Doesn't it really upset you? Well, you ladies, we're going to have the Normal Women's Alliance, High Tea. And Congressman, our Congressman, Earl Blumenauer, will be at the Cannabis Cafe representing our district. I hope that you'll come to the benefit. We're trying to encourage women across the world. We're an international organization trying to lead women to change this law. These ridiculous, draconian laws that we should not stand up and support. And because of all of you, because of Paul Stanford, Paul Loney, everyone, we are here today free. Is that what we want? We want to live in a place like this. We want our children. My granddaughter's here today. I want legal hemp so that we can save our planet. We can have green jobs. How many of you need a green job today? Yes, and we have hemp. We can grow hemp in the state of Oregon. And we can stop supporting China and Canada and support Oregonians. And everybody can have health care. I know it sounds like a dream, but dreams come true. Come to the Cannabis Cafe and see. And next year, we are going to be legalizing marijuana. We are going to have an initiative. And I want all of you to join me in signing it and getting people to sign it, because we are going to change reality for all time. Prohibition will be a thing of the past. Are you with me? Yes! All right. Hey, you guys, please donate to Hempstock. Help us make it work. We can't do it alone. We need your support. So when you see the buckets, give money and clean up after yourselves. I love you. Drink water. Clean up.
My name is Anna Diaz, and I am from the Normal Women's Alliance, and I'm also one of the founders of Oregon Normal. And I'd like to talk to you today about legalization, because its time has come. So, we got some really great news from the DOJ. It sounds like maybe they're going to honor states' rights to legalization in Colorado and Washington. And even in Oregon, the legislature is already talking about creating a law there rather than letting it go through the initiative process. So clearly, the powers that be are starting to understand that legalization is something that the people want and something that the people are requiring. And that's really good news. The bad news is our people are still getting busted. Just this summer, my good friend Lori from Southern Oregon got raided for providing safe access to patients. Just this last week, 14 private residents in Oregon, right here in Portland, got busted. I haven't heard all the details yet. Somebody left me a note that said, well, maybe they should have gotten busted for shipping 50 pounds of weed to Texas and New York. And my first thought was, don't people in Texas and New York need weed too? It is time for prohibition to end. And it is time for everybody out here that's having a good time to step up and contact your local representatives and your federal representatives and tell them to stop sending us to jail. Stop taking our babies. Stop destroying our families and allow us to consume cannabis in peace like we're doing right here, right now. And you guys are the ones who can make it happen. I'm just one person, and I've had some kind of impact on this movement. If every one of you stepped up, you could do the same thing. I'm not anybody special. I'm just a person who's pissed off. And if you're not pissed off about what's happening with cannabis in our community today, then you're not paying attention. Because even though we are so fortunate that we can be out here enjoying the freedom of weed right here, right now, our people are still getting busted. Our people are still going to jail. And it's mostly people of color and people who are younger. So you kids who think it's really cool to sell weed so you can pay your rent, you need to help us legalize too, because you can get a real job in the cannabis community. You can get benefits. You can have a 40-hour work week and get paid to do that same thing if we legalize. If we can grow industrial hemp in this state, the jobs that will be created and the sustainability that it will provide for us is infinitely large. I can't even put it into words. It's so huge. I was unemployed for 2 years trying to find a job here. If we have jobs through industrial hemp and the cannabis businesses that can be built once we legalize, I probably could have had a job the first day. So today I ask you all, as you're out here enjoying yourselves, when you go home, think about what a good time you had. Think about how great it felt to be free, because doesn't it feel great to feel free? I can't hear you. Doesn't it feel great to be free? Okay, so let's make it happen. Call those representatives. Email them. Send them a postcard. Drive them crazy. Make them know that they know who you are and that you support cannabis legalization. Don't vote for anybody that doesn't support cannabis legalization. If you're from Washington, there's a petition here you can sign today that promotes real legalization. Sign them all. Let's legalize. My name is Anna Diaz, and I am a proud stoner. Join me in marijuana prohibition. Thank you.
There we go. Some fantastic videos of speeches by 3 great women in cannabis legalization movement here in Oregon. Bonnie King, reporter for Salem News. Madeline Martinez, the proprietor of the world-famous Cannabis Cafe. And from the Normal Women's Alliance, Anna Diaz. And I got to just personally say that Madeline Martinez and Anna Diaz are the part of the reason why I'm here. Probably 2 of the most important reasons why I'm here speaking to you today. So thank you, ladies, for your continued activism. We're back with The Rant after this.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die?
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less.
I have to say that there was one question that was voted on that ranked fairly high, and that was whether legalizing marijuana would improve the economy and job creation. I don't know what this says about the online audience, The answer is no. I don't think that is a good strategy to grow our economy. So.
There's nothing funny about nearly 1 million lives wrecked by a marijuana arrest every year, Mr. President. Politely tell President Obama what you think about legalization by calling the White House at 202-456-1111.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant. Well, if you've been following my show for any length of time, you know one of the stories that always pisses me off is when I see the story of parents losing their kids because they happen to have pot or pot plants in the home. And before I get to the rant, I do want to make a scheduling note for people having to do with a event that is taking place. The Facebook event has been put up by Moms for Marijuana. They are organizing a global protest on November 12th, I believe it is. And this event, I've put this up on my Facebook page as well, facebook.com/radicalruss, if you want to take a look for yourself. But it's available through the Moms for Marijuana page as well. We'll be doing live coverage of that event. Plus, I am trying to put together an all-star panel of activists to have an hour-long discussion on this event, this taking of children by Child Protective Services, and some of the horror stories of the family court system. It's nothing like civil court. It's nothing like criminal court. The rights you think that we all have as Americans don't seem to apply once you get into the family court system. So that'll be on November 12th. Check my Facebook page, Radical Russ on Facebook, for more information. Now, as far as the rant goes today, the story that prompted this came out of NBC4i, and let me see if I know where that's at. That's in Ohio, yeah. Hocking County, Ohio is where this story comes from. And the notes in the story basically tell us that a mother and her boyfriend are facing felony drug charges and endangering children after deputies found marijuana and marijuana plants in the mobile home where they lived with her children. They knocked on the door. They were greeted by the 23-year-old Jessica Lehman. She was holding her 2-year-old daughter. She has 2 other kids as well who weren't there, all under the age of 5, I believe. But she had the 2-year-old with her. The 2 others being babysat somewhere else. Now, Jessica told the deputies that there was some marijuana inside the residence, but not much. She granted permission for the deputies to search the mobile home. I don't know how I can shout this louder than I shout it or say it more often than I say it. Never grant the cops permission to come in your home to search anything, especially if you know you've got marijuana and plants in the home. But I don't want to blame the victim here, because a lot of people are intimidated by the cops. A lot of people don't know their rights. She's a young lady, 23 years old. According to the sheriff's office, deputies seized approximately 12.2 pounds of marijuana, 3 firearms, potting soil, a grow light, 3 large machetes, and a large quantity of ammunition. Lehman, Jessica, she was arrested, charged with possession of marijuana, 3 counts of endangering children, and 1 count of illegal cultivation. Her boyfriend was later tracked down, and he provided a statement regarding his involvement in the situation. He also was charged with 1 count of possession, 3 counts of child endangerment, 1 count of illegal cultivation, and 1 count of trafficking. They were both transported to the Southeastern Ohio Regional Jail in Nelsonville. Now, as I read these stories, of course, I also go through the comments on the stories, and I'm always interested in these stories when they're in the Midwest, in Ohio, or places where there's not as much marijuana culture. Maybe people aren't as informed about marijuana. And to see the reactions from the people in these comment sections. You were endangering your kid because everyone knows that the marijuana dealers are dangerous and you're going to get, home invasions. And the thing that's so frustrating, of course, is that the tiny seed of truth in that is the seed of truth that prohibition leads to violence, not that pot plants lead to violence. And the reason pot plants might lead to violence is that they are far more valuable than they should be. Nobody is doing home invasions over someone's home tomato plants, right? No one's doing home invasions over someone's home brewing kit. Because anyone that wants beer can go buy beer, and anyone that wants tomatoes can go buy tomatoes. Or if they want to brew or grow their own, they can as well. But with marijuana, we've got it so restricted that the price is so worth the profit and risk to go invade someone's home and rob them. But in that respect, marijuana is no different than diamonds or jewelry or any, fine art or anything that might attract criminals who would then want to take the risk of the home invasion and the robbery. So are we now to tell the rich women to not be driving their Bentleys and wearing the big rocks on their fingers and dressing in really expensive clothing, lest we endanger their children? We wouldn't want people to know that their parents are rich. See, that kind of thinking kind of evaporates when you start applying it to people that we don't conceive of as poor, people that aren't living in trailer homes and perhaps paying the bills with some marijuana growing. And as far as that attraction to violence, attraction or the potential for the home invasion robbery, the only way in which the marijuana differs from the diamonds or the cash or the jewelry has to do with the fact that after you are robbed, after you are invaded, you can't call the cops. Someone who's got the diamonds, someone who's got the cash, the valuables at home, the fine art, can get insurance policies so that they don't feel the need to have to defend their property with violence or try to maintain a bunch of firearms. They know that they can call the cops if someone robs them, and they know they can fill out an insurance report and get their stuff back or get it replaced at some level. And that doesn't exist for the people growing pot. And so in every one of these stories, we get a situation where the cops find a bunch of pot plants. They find some parents, usually young parents with young kids, and bam, those kids are taken away immediately by Child Protective Services. The family courts can't get those kids quick enough when they find a pot plant. But if some kid gets a hold of a loaded gun in someone's house, we rarely hear from CPS, do we? If you've been listening to my show for a while, I play some news games, and one of my news games is whenever I hear a story of some parent got their kid taken away for child endangerment for growing a pot plant, I do a news search on that county, on that state, and within the past 6 months, I guarantee you I can find a story where a child got a hold of a loaded gun thanks to the neglect, thanks to the endangerment presented by those parents being neglectful of proper firearm safety and storage, and a kid ends up shooting himself, shooting someone else, but you never hear of a child endangerment charge. You never hear of CPS coming and taking those kids away. As I reviewed this story in this Hocking County, Ohio, I found a story from Slate.com about the story of Raytwan, got the spelling weird. Raytwan Briggs. Sorry, I have trouble with the name. Raytwan Briggs in Youngstown, Ohio. 4-year-old boy who shot and killed himself while his 1- and 5-year-old siblings watched. There were 3 handguns found in the room where Raytwan was shot. Now, this is the 7th shooting, so-called accidental shooting of a child in the state of Ohio since the Newtown massacre that took place and reawakened everyone to this uniquely American horror story. 7 accidental child shooting deaths. And in the state of Ohio, there is no law to punish allowing children to get access to a loaded gun. In some states, like Texas has this law that is a child access prevention law, so that if you're irresponsible, if you're neglectful in the storage and handling of your firearms and a kid gets access to it and hurts himself or kills someone else, you are held responsible for that. Now, this isn't a show about the gun debate or where you might stand on that issue, but I would think anyone with a shred of common sense in their head can see that loaded firearms in a home, and again, whether you think that you have a right to have them, that you should have them, that there should be limits, I don't care. Can we all agree that a loaded firearm in the home is more potential danger to a kid than a pot plant? That's what's so frustrating to me about this debate, this inconsistency of our national conscience on what is considered danger to children. We've got, and no doubt accidents happen. There's no doubt accidents happen, but we're talking about stories where this was a 4-year-old Kentucky boy. Another story, a 4-year-old Kentucky boy shot and killed his 6-year-old sister with their grandfather's pistol. The grandfather had been cleaning his pistol while the grandchildren looked on. Number one mistake. Hey, kids, why don't you just hang out while I'm cleaning my pistol? And then he set it down and stepped out of the room. I don't know, maybe he had to go take a whiz or something, right? Set it down. Don't worry, the 4 and the 6-year-old, they wouldn't be curious at all as far as what Grandpa was doing with the gun. Well, of course they were. The grandson grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger. Killed his 6-year-old sister. Was he charged with child endangerment? Was the remaining child taken away and put into child protective custody? No. It's too bad Grandpa didn't have a pot plant in the closet. Maybe he'd have faced some punishment. 2 men, 2 women arrested for marijuana cultivation and child abuse out of NBC, Los Angeles, age 22, 26, 24, 27. Conspiracy, marijuana cultivation for sales, child endangerment, because kids were around pot plants. Here's one out of Kern County. 4 children safe after 2 arrested in major pot bust. 29 and 31. Their kids taken away. Child endangerment because they had marijuana plants on the premises. Folks, we are not ever going to get away from this demonization of marijuana use, marijuana users, and the misuse of child protective services until we can show that marijuana use is equal to beer use, that we deserve the same sort of respect, the same sort of laws. Certainly, some alcoholic parents may abuse their kids. And I'm sure it's entirely possible some marijuana-using parents aren't the greatest in the world either. But we don't take people's kids away just because they drink beer. We don't take people's kids away just because they homebrew. This misuse of child protective services has got to stop. And in future episodes, you're going to learn even more about what a profit racket it is and how it's incentivized to break up families and incentivized to take kids away and put them in adoption. It's a sick story, and you're going to learn more about it in the coming weeks. Hey, that's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. Remember, next week, Toker Talk Radio will take place after this hour. For now, free weed is next. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you